Eric Dungey here as we move along here into hour two. I think we have Eric. We're just diving in head first here. There he is. There's our guy, Eric Dungey. Eric, welcome back. A lot happened while you were out of the country, my friend, but welcome back. Before we get into all this, how was the big trip of a lifetime to South Africa? How was the trip abroad?
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable. Really fun experience, kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity there. Saw some really, really cool things, and it's always fun to diverge into a different culture, and really enjoyed my time down there. But yeah, you're not kidding. A lot has happened in my 2-week absence, or I guess week and a half absence. And it was kind of crazy to follow along from another country there, but I think we all saw it coming. Unfortunately, I wish the best for Babers, and he did some great things here at Syracuse. I was fortunate to be one of the guys that was able to play for him and have some successful runs and time there. But the standard is set, and after 8 years, you're expected to win, and it just wasn't cutting it anymore. And I don't think he's I think he's going to miss it, but at the same time, he got paid and he got his money, and at the end of the day, he had a very successful and long career.
Yeah, obviously, 8 years in, you've had your chances to do it, and it comes to an end with a week to go in the season here. I'm curious for your thoughts on this, Eric, because, we talk about the idea of, a Northeast footprint and a Syracuse guy and all this. You're a Syracuse guy now, but you're from Oregon, so it's not necessarily the end-all, be-all. What do you view as the most important attributes of the next Orange football head coach?
Just a winner. I think there's a lot of excuses and there's a lot of things going back and forth, the NIL, this and that. And at the end of the day, it's going to be about the culture you build and the culture that you continue to build and the guys that you bring in. You can go find some guys in the transfer portal. It doesn't have to be these 5-star recruits, these guys that want $2 million, a house and a Bentley in their UV apartment. We don't need guys like that, because those are me players. And at the end of the day, you just got to make do with what you're dealt. And we got guys that, whether it be from an FCS school or a group of 5 school, and people who have a chip on their shoulder. And, I feel like I was one of those guys that, I had a 3-star recruit, and, I wanted to prove people wrong. My career worked out, and I had a really, a lot of fun and some success and some woes and some adversity that I dealt with at Syracuse, but that's part of the growing pains. And I think this new era of college football, it's a lot of, if it's not working for me, I'm going to go somewhere else, or where I'm going to get paid the most. And you need a coach who's going to really try to build Syracuse for what it is. There's a lot of great things that Syracuse has to offer. The education, the city, the connection that you're able to make afterward. There's some NIL opportunities. Granted, I don't know the ins and outs of what's going on in there, but if you're looking to make the $1 million, $2 million, that's I don't think that's going to be Syracuse. But if you're looking to really establish yourself and make a name and play in one of the best places, I think Syracuse is a spot for that. And you just got to get a coach who understands what he's walking into, and that he's going to hit the grindstone every single day, and he wants to win and has that winning attitude, and he's got to have a chip on his shoulder as well. I know I've seen a lot of names thrown around and this and that, but I just really want somebody who's truly passionate, and you can see that.
I'll ask you about one of the names that's on the list, because you played for him while you were here, and that's Sean Lewis. He's a name that's going to pop up, I think, on a lot of lists this season for a lot of different opportunities. I'm just going to hazard a guess. He's going to have a different job next year than the one he has right now, regardless of where he ends up next year. What would you think of an idea of Sean coming back to Syracuse?
I think you can just see what he did at Kent State and look at Kent State now. I think he's able to go in and he's able to establish that dominance, and people feed off of him. He's a very energetic guy, and he leads from the front, very vocal, and he does a really fantastic job of teaching. That's who I learned this offense from. So if it's Sean Lewis, I think, I would give my nod, as much as that means, but as a guy who was in his room every single day, and a guy who just was able to see what he's about, I think he's able to really just rally the guys around him. He had success at Kent State and was able to do some things. Colorado's a whole different world. I mean, I can't imagine being on that team in the spotlight. You got a whole bunch of personalities and egos that you're working around, and Sean's one of those guys. He's blue collar, and he's going to make sure that he's going to put himself forward, and he's going to stand on everything that he stands for, and he's going to move that forward, if that's making sense in that in that way. But I got a lot of respect for Sean Lewis, and I know there's a couple of other coaches that Syracuse would love to see. But again, it's just somebody that you in the community can see is passionate and understands what they're coming into.
Yeah, a name bouncing around right now that, I don't think a lot of us know very well is Bob Chesney, because he's the head coach at Holy Cross, but he's winning at Holy Cross level. You mentioned a winner. I guess, how important is it to you, the level they're winning at, or is it just, hey, if this guy can win football games, he can win football games in the ACC?
Yeah, and I think it changes. Holy Cross has had a lot of success, but they went toe-to-toe with Boston College and some of these other teams that have shown themselves as pretty solid football teams. If you have a little better personnel on your side, then I think it will translate. But at the same time, you never know, and it can be a gamble. But from a guy like that, you can just tell he's a winner, and he's going to find a way to win. But Babers was the same way. I mean, you saw what he did in the MAC, and that's one of the reasons we brought him into Syracuse. But it's a different world out here. I mean, ACC play, this Power 5 football is a different monkey, and then it's going to be tough.
Yeah, well, we'll see where it goes. This Eric Dungey is there, I guess. Any of these other names? I mean, there's a bajillion names out there right now, Eric. Any of these other names stand out to you as that guy interests me. That guy could be a guy that has success.
I think there's a lot of coaches that interest me. The Ed O is kind of who is floating around in my mind, just because he's just one of those college coaches that you wish you could have played for, and Coach O. And I just think it's a different animal, and I think after the season we'll be really able to dive in more as pieces start to move. But we do still have another game left here, and we have a bowl game opportunity at stake. And I know we were talking a little bit before I left about Dan Villar and getting him more involved, and it looks like they listened, and he was able to kind of shake things up there and make a name for himself. I really appreciate what he does, and at this point, you got nothing to lose. You might as well just throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. And next game against Wake Forest, I think it'll be fun. I think we'll see I hope we'll see some different wrinkles, maybe some trick plays, and just having the guys have some fun. They've had a long season. They've gone through a lot this past week. One thing that can take your mind off of that is just simply getting back to the basics of enjoying the game. A lot of the time throughout the season, it's such a grind. And at the end of the year, you're just so mentally exhausted, especially when things haven't gone your way. And one thing that really can and set that aside is just going out and like you were in third and fourth grade and just having fun, making plays, making great catches, hitting hard, and at the end of the day, winning the game. So as long as we get back to winning, that's all that will matter, and that's what these seniors and these players deserve.
Yeah, take me back, because it was your freshman year when Scott Schaefer got fired. You went through it. You were hurt. You didn't play that week, but you're part of the team. You guys went through it that week. And it was a little different in that Schaefer did coach the game. You guys won and carried him off the field after Zach Mahoney led the game-winning field goal drive at the end. What was that week like, and how do you expect it to be, kind of the same or different here this week?
What Shafe didn't change. That's the one thing I always respect about Shafe, is no matter what he was going through, he didn't let us see his frustration. Granted, there was a lot going on behind the scenes, but you know what? He had a job at hand, and it was to coach us, and that's what he did. And he did the best to his ability. And even afterward, he never said any ill words or anything like that. He understood that this is the way it's played. From a player's perspective, it was a little frustrating, because that's the guy who recruited us, and we had a lot of faith in him, and we saw the good things that he was able to do. Granted, you have to look through binoculars, but there was definitely a light at the end of the tunnel there, and he just didn't have the time or the resources to really put that into motion. And then Babers was able to come in, and a lot of the times we had the success was with Steve Ishmaels, Irvin Phillips, these guys, the Zaire Franklins, the guys who Schaefer brought in himself, and it was just frustrating in that sense. I got all the love in the world for Scott Schaefer and Tim Lester, because they were really the ones who took a chance on me in the Power 5 when nobody else would. So I really owe them everything for this opportunity that was able to get me into Syracuse. But then other than that, just great people. I mean, still reaching out today and just always staying in touch, which is pretty remarkable, even though I was only with them for essentially 6 months.
Yeah, and obviously, the emotion of that day was high. Like when the guy gets carried off the field, there was a lot going on in the Dome that day. As Eric Dungey is with us, and since we last talked, Eric, as you said, the entire offense looks nothing at all like it did the last time. We've gone through quarterback mysteries and complete changes and a whole bunch of stuff here the last 2 weeks. So, what do you make of what you've seen of basically ripping up the playbook and starting new here the last couple of weeks?
I mean, I like it. You're just throwing a wrinkle and you're letting guys make plays. And Dan does a good job of just kind of, putting his shoulder down. And at the end of the day, he's going to fight for every yard, and people feed off of that. And getting Braden Davis a chance, and some of these other guys who, probably wouldn't have seen much of the field unless the situation at hand right now. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to make a play, and Dan Villar's proven that he can do that. And some other guys are going to step up. Like Quint Allen's really been, solid the past couple of weeks here, and love the way he runs. I've been a huge LeQuint fan ever since the start of the season, and watching him last year as well. But it's again, I think this is going to be a fun game offensively. I'm hoping he just opens up everything and they just let these guys play, and hopefully see some smiles on the field and get that swagger back, because I think that's been missing for a little bit. And I just feel for the players in this point right here.
How tough do you think this is on Garrett Schrader? Like, I mean, he can. His college career is coming to an end, and we see it. He cannot go out on the field and do what we've seen him do in the past. How tough is this for a guy like that right now?
I think it's really tough, but I think he's handling it well. Whenever the camera pans to him on the sideline, he's up, he's chipper, and he's doing everything he can, even backflips on the field. I mean, that's pretty insane. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life, is doing a backflip mid play. But I think he's just trying to enjoy this for the most part, and it's a pretty remarkable experience. You never know when your last game's going to be, so just really trying to cherish every moment. And other than that, just hoping that these guys can really get to this bowl game. Granted, it's going to be 6-6, but that's a small victory, and it gives you some momentum moving forward to next year.
Yeah, I've given up predicting as well what's going to happen with the quarterback position this week after being just epically wrong several weeks in a row. So it's crazy, right? Like, so we sit here on Wednesday. There's no reasonable way, right, to predict, Eric, what that position is going to be like on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. They could put a lineman back there, or just do the tush push and try to get 3 yards every time and do a whole new offense we've never seen. Or they could just have a guy split out on the sideline, an inch away from the sideline. I mean, those were the craziest splits I've ever seen. But I like it because you're changing it up at this point, and you're showing the defense something that they haven't seen, and they got to take into account. Granted, I don't know how successful the super wide splits of a wide receiver can be, but you know what? At this point, who cares? And let's just see what's going to stick, and have these guys enjoy it, and just put a good product out for Syracuse fans to have some fun watching as well.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I have no idea what we're going to see on Saturday, because it has been a mystery developing here the last few weeks. All right, Eric, have a good Thanksgiving. I assume you're going to have a plate full of something tomorrow, right? You're gonna attack it good.
Oh, of course. That's my favorite holiday. You get to eat as much as you can. So it'll be a good time. I hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving as well with your family.
All right, we'll do. Hopefully you've woken up from your Thanksgiving food coma by the time the postgame show rolls around on Saturday. You got a couple days to recover, so we'll be good. All right, man. Have a good Thanksgiving. We'll talk again on Saturday, okay?
Thanks, Brian.